Welcome to the Kevin Long Show, production of the Southgate Media Group. You can find us at southgatemediagroup.com. Music is Lift by Kevin McClelland of incomputech.com. Royalty-free music as long as you give the dude his props. This episode of the Kevin Long Show is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Do you know a podcast fan? For 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty, head over to tweakedaudio.com and in the coupon code area, type Southgate. The Kevin Long Show is also brought to you by Coffee, where you can support us by going to coffee.com and searching The Kevin Long Show. No spaces. All right, it's that time of the week again. Time for the Kevin Long Show. I'm your host, Kevin Long. And with me this week, Carlos Lesting of Casl Entertainment. Did I say that right?
Kind of. It's Carlos Lysing, but you got the Casl Entertainment right.
Okay.
Hello, everybody out there.
I always wonder, I'm like, I realize there's no T, but it would still be Casl, wouldn't it?
It sure is. It's actually my four initials. I'm actually Carlos Alvino Sebastian Lysing. It's a Filipino thing. So it's all my initials all run into one. That's why it's Casl.
Nice. That is cool. I knew about the Australian part of your life, but I didn't know about the Filipino part.
You already knew. No, yeah, my wife is Australian.
Right.
I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Just a little bit south of where everything was actually happening in the hobby when I was a young man.
Nice. Okay, so today I brought you onto the show to talk about some of the products you have. Go ahead and tell us about the adventures that you have written.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. Actually, everything began for me a few years ago when I was at GaryCon. I went to GaryCon. It was my first year there. And I was a player and adventurer of one of Alan Grohe. For those of you out there who are in deep in the Greyhawk community, Alan Grohe is a really, really well-read Greyhawk scholar, somebody I really respect in the community. And he ran a game in Castle Greyhawk, and I thought I was really inspired. I wanted to run something of my own. So I started writing an adventure to be run over at GaryCon. And when I ran, it was going to feature the villain Marquesa from the A2 Secret of the Slaver's Stockade adventure. It was going to be the finally bringing her to justice. Well, I started writing it, and I'm one of those kind of people that as I start working on a project, I'm always biting off more than I can chew. So I started writing it. I was like, let's put professional cartography in here. Let's go ahead and put a cover on here. Wouldn't it be cool if we actually printed this out? The next thing I knew, I actually had a full-fledged module. And I brought it to GaryCon. I was just going to show it off to everybody, like, hey, check this out. This is what you're going to be running today. And I brought it there, and everybody was like, oh my God, how can I get a copy of that? And the response overwhelmed me. So I was like, well, it's a success of yours. I better come with, better and more products. That actually started me off on the way to writing my own adventures. I realized that there was a big 1E community. They were looking for new material. So I was like, okay. And that's what set me down the road to publishing a module. As we go right now, I have 12 published modules, and I have a successful Patreon. I disseminate the products through both myself, getting in touch with me through either Facebook or my email, or I go through Black Blade Publishing, who actually attends conventions, and they sell my books there. And pretty soon we're going to be launching our website as well, so everybody online can just go directly through the website. Finally, and you can get them through our Patreon as well, which is what is allowing me to continue on with this project. The Patreon helps me helps me invest more money into these products, so I can get excellent interior art, excellent exterior art, hire professional editors, that kind of thing. Because unfortunately, as much as a labor of love this is for me, it's also money intensive. I wish it wasn't that way. I would love to be able to just do it for free, but unfortunately, it's one of those things you got to put a little bit of money into it if you want it to be a good product. But fortunately, so far, I've been overwhelmed with the response that I've gotten both on Patreon and to purchasing the modules. So it's been it's been good for me so far. Casl Entertainment's really growing and it's thriving, and we're increasingly doing new things all the time, and it's very exciting.
That's awesome. If you have 12 published products, I need to get on the ball. I think I have 4 of them plus the My Little Pony one. So I'm just a little bit
that's
behind.
Sort of like Easter egg. I'll speak to that one here in a second, but the rest of the modules, a lot of them are only Patreon specific at this point, because what I've done in order to make the Patreon attractive to people is I offer the modules as early release to them, and then they go out to the public. So you're really not as far behind as you think. A lot of them are not actually for sale yet, but there are about 8 of them that are.
Sweet.
And for those of you out there, for your listeners that are interested in the My Little Pony project, I found out last year that Luke Gygax's daughters were going, or 2 years ago, excuse me, that he was going to bring his daughters to GaryCon, and they're all very young. The oldest one of them, I think, is 10, and they're all big My Little Pony fans. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool for me to run a game for the newest generation of Gygaxes out there, and sort of give back to that family what they've given to me over the years. And so the next thing I knew, I had written myself a full-fledged My Little Pony adventure, and I ran the girls through it, and it was fantastic. Their mother ran through it with them, and everybody had a great time. But I do have that module over here because I don't have a license with Hasbro. I can't really sell that. I give that out to people who are interested in it, the copies that I have, and it's been a really it was a lot of fun to write and a lot of fun to do for the kids.
That's cool. I still need to run it for my kids.
My module, I'd be honored to run it again at some point in time. It was like I said, it was a lot of fun. All my modules besides that, though, are first edition Dungeons and Dragons, using the AD&D rules. However, because I don't have a license for that either, what I do is I use the third party, the OSR version of that called Osric, which is published by Black Blade Publishing, and it's open source, so I can use that freely.
Nice.
But anybody out there who plays first edition can easily interchange it between the rules.
That's cool. So I guess my first question for the Patreon, because that's come up a lot already in our conversation. If a person was to pledge $50 today, when would the next time they could be in your Twitch game?
First of all, let me explain a little bit about the Twitch game. What I do right away is, for my highest Patreon, my highest level patrons, they pay $50 a month. And what they do is every other month they get a copy of my newest adventures. They get all my mini modules. I do a mini module every month. And that is usually a 4 to 10 page module that I do for them, fully mapped and everything like that. I do a magic item of the month, a monster of the month, a spell of the month, and 3 character sheets with full art from professional artists.
That's awesome.
That's all. That's everything that you get for being a $25 Patreon. But if you go one step above that and go to the $50 level, you're actually allowed to play in my Twitch campaign. I have an online campaign that I put out there on YouTube and Twitch TV for everybody to watch. You can go to YouTube and go search under Casl Entertainment. You can see examples of it. You would be able to play in that almost immediately. However, the first Twitch game right now is completely booked up. So what I would do is, people that are interested in joining subsequently now, I would start a second Twitch game for them.
Sweet.
And I already have some people that are interested in joining in on that. So it would be a totally separate campaign, but I've got a lot of ideas and a lot of cool things I want to do over there. I'm sure that everybody out there that plays D&D, that listens to your podcast, ideas are not in short supply in our particular hobby. I think that the creative people like yourself and me and everybody out there that's listening to this right now, you guys just have ideas in your heart that you just have to let fly. You have to give them voice. Some of them may be better than others, but I don't think that any of us are really ever short for ideas. It's just the ones that will and won't work.
Right. So this is kind of Patreon related, but also general company related. How did you come about with the logo of your company and the Patreon levels and how they're all bird related?
Okay, cool. Good. That's a good question. First of all, I absolutely adore ravens. They're kind of even though I don't really my favorite animal in the world is the cheetah. I adore ravens and blackbirds, crows. When I was playing in a Teen Titans game many years ago when I was a kid, when I was younger, I had a character that somebody that they decided would be the brother of Raven from that group, and so my character at that point in time, they started calling him the Rook because that's a male raven. That sort of became my nickname over time, and I sort of began to identify with it because I do love black birds. And so as I decided I needed a company logo, I know that also that there's the chess piece out there called a rook that looks like a castle. Well, my particular company name is Casl Entertainment. Casl is CASL, which are my 4 initials. It's a Filipino thing. I have 2 middle initials. So a castle being a rook, and with a rook alighted on it, it all just kind of came together for me. And I went ahead and I commissioned my good friend and ace Casl Entertainment artist, Jade Hilliard Simpson, and asked her to go ahead and create our company logo. And she couldn't have done a better job. I'm so pleased with it. But that's where the rook came from. That's where the logo came from. That's kind of the whole history of me and black birds. I also had an interesting thing happen to me about maybe 5 years ago where I was walking out of work and I was really, this is way before I created Casl Entertainment, and I was kind of in a daze that day. And all of a sudden, this big black bird flew off the line and stopped right in front of me and kind of stared at me. And it stopped me from walking across the street right before a truck came through. He would have cleaned me out totally because I wasn't paying attention at all. And I kind of, it was something that's an experience that stuck with me. You know, that kind of the black bird just kind of looked at me for a second, then flew off. It's almost like fate decided to say in the form of a black bird, not quite yet.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's the whole thing with the rook, and that's why everything is bird related. My wife Amanda, who I refer to as my merchandise Valkyrie, she's largely in charge of the Patreon. In fact, everything that you see when you log on to the Patreon, which is at www.patreon.com/Casl Entertainment, she is the effective arm of that. Basically, what I am is I'm the creative talent, and she does all the administrative work, including she's the one that put together the Patreon. She's the one that came up with all the levels. She's the one that came up with graphics for them. That is really her brainchild and what she works tirelessly on just to make sure that I can keep working and creating while the Patreon is chugging along without interruption. So I really owe all the success of the Patreon truly to her. She does a great job with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're kind of a team like that. She does all the hard, thankless work, and nobody ever gives her any of the props for it. And I get all the congratulations for it. Hey, great module, Carlos. Great character sheet. But truly, I couldn't do it without her. She does a great job with that.
Do you have an adventure? Let's do this 2 parts. First of all, what kind of adventures do you like? And out of all the ones that you've written so far, which one is your favorite?
Okay, that's a great question. And actually, I can wind it down into pretty much one answer in a way. My favorite module of all time is a 1E adventure that I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with. It's called The Lost Caverns of Southgate. It was the TSR code S4. I remember being a 12-year-old kid when it came out, and anyone of you that has read that before realizes there's 2 booklets inside. First of all, there's an amazing module that's in the beginning of it with amazing Jeff Easley art all throughout the inside of it. I mean, it just sings old school TSR to you. It's very challenging. It's got some great monsters in it, some great challenges in there. But the whole second booklet is new magic items, it's new monsters, it's new artifacts. And you got to remember back then, we didn't have an internet. We didn't have, everything you got was from your local hobby store or wherever you got your books from. So really, you were just scraping for crumbs of D&D information. I was a D&D obsessed kid back then. So when this came out, and I've got all this in my hands, I can still very vividly imagine when I opened up the shrink wrap of that, and I was sitting down in my living room on my chest, the pillow underneath my stomach, in the middle of the living room, and my little 12-year-old mind was being absolutely blown off its shoulders because I couldn't believe all this new material. I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this module has alternate planes of existence in it. It takes place in Greyhawk, which is my passion. It's got demon lords involved in it. I mean, this thing is off the chain. Okay, so that is my favorite adventure of all time. And my favorite type of adventure of all time tends to be dungeon crawls. I like them mostly because they're a little bit more... As a player, I think I like things a little more self-contained and not necessarily so open-ended. So that appealed to me in that way. I guess as a designer myself now, I write a lot of dungeon crawls for that same reason, because I realize that people who are going to use my modules may want to drop them in their own campaigns. And if I put too much backstory behind that that's dependent on a setting or dependent on certain characters, it may be lost on them because they don't have any context for that in their game. So now going forward, to answer your other question, though, my favorite module that I've ever created is, for us, it would be code C11, and it's called When Comes the Witching Hour. And it will be released officially in October for Patrons. The big bad guy in Lost Caverns of Socanthus 4 is the Witch Queen Igwaliv, who in Greyhawk is possibly one of the greatest, most powerful magi of all time. This C11 takes place actually in one of her old strongholds, and it's got demon lords in there. I created it's a walking homage to S4 really for me, because it's got demon lords involved in it. Just horrifically powerful encounters in there. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, and I just love that module because as a creator, a lot of times you have a vision for something, and it may not come off quite like you wanted to, and it's very frustrating. C11 came off exactly like I wanted to. It kind of realizes my vision better maybe than any of my other modules did. The cover art, which is done by Daniel Govar, is amazing. I think it's fantastic. But that one right now is probably my favorite published module. Although I have just written a module that will premiere at Gamehole this year, which is coming in about 2 months, called the Forgotten Temple of Rennet, which may or may not be better than that even. The cover is... When Daniel Govar did my cover for that one as well, and this cover, Kevin, you're not even going to believe it when you see it. It is amazing.
I'm excited for this.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It features one of a Casl Entertainment special monster that no one else has yet. I don't want to give away too much, so I won't. I
understand that.
Linger on that. I don't want to give away too much on it, but when you guys see it, it's going to knock your socks off. I guarantee that.
That is so cool.
That's probably my favorite module, and that S4 really shaped my design aesthetic a lot. It was written by Gygax. I think it's the last great Gygaxian module ever. But some people might disagree with that, but that's my personal opinion.
That's cool. I'm going to have to go find that one. I don't think it's in my collection.
Oh, man.
But
you owe it to yourself to get yourself a copy of it. Sit down with it, read it for a little while. It may not have the same effect on you as it did on me back then, because remember back then I was getting 32 pages of brand new monsters and magic items. By now, you've seen all those things.
Right.
I mean, you've seen the Demon Lord Grazit. You've seen Fraz Urblu. You've seen Baphomet. I never saw those at that point in time. Those are all brand new, released in that module. So, yeah, that was... It may not have the impact that it did then because of that, but I can guarantee you'll find something in it that you'll really, really enjoy.
That is cool. I think I remember seeing, going back to Patreon for a minute, I think I remember seeing on one of the levels, you do polls for what you're going to write about?
I do. Actually, I'm very interested in the voice of the customer. For me, I like to hear what the people that are paying for my products like to see, because I like to write the modules that I want. I guess Casl Entertainment is always the guiding principle is always we write the modules that we wanted to play when we were younger. But that being said, I'm also in this, for my customers. I want people to have, I want their needs to be satisfied as well. So I like very much listening to people telling me what kind of modules they like, what kind of monsters do you like. As a result, I'm very, very open to suggestions from the public and from especially my Patreons. And as a matter of fact, I think that I can release this information now. In October, early October, I will be the guest of honor at GrogCon in Kissimmee, Florida, Orlando, Florida. I was asked to write the convention module for that show, and I'm running it 3 times when I'm down at the show. The owners of the show, I asked them. I said, "Hey, since this is your baby, why don't you tell me what you want the module to be called, and you give me a monster, and I'll base it around that." And they came up with the idea of, let's do it as a contest. Let's do it as a poll. So they put up this contest, and the name of the module ended up becoming The Porcelain Sword of Queen Ashala. And it's my first module that I've ever written that takes place in Greyhawk's Beclunish West, which is really cool. It's got a very good, very cool Persian/Middle Eastern feel to it. And I think it'll be well received. I hope. The artist on that one was Chet Minton, and Chet really outdid himself on that one. He did a great job with Queen Ashala and conveying kind of a little bit of the background of the module. But yeah, that's an example of how I am receptive to the public. Is that whole module was all based on just a title that I was given by the public, and I translated that. I decided that, wow, that sounds like it would be really cool to do as a Beclunish thing, which I'd wanted to do for a while, and it really shaped what the final product was going to be.
That's really cool. I think I saw a photo of the art that Chet did for that module.
Yeah, Chet asked me if he could go ahead and share it because he was really excited about it. He felt like he really nailed it on that one, and I did too, obviously. So yeah, it's been going around a little bit on the Facebook circuit, that particular cover. Did you like it?
I did.
Did you like what you...
Really good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I thought so too. Chet's a good friend of mine. He's one of the artists that is in the Casl Entertainment bullpen. In that, I work with him quite often. People like him and Jade Hilliard-Simpson, Mike Lowe over from England, Raven Evermore in Maine, Amanda Makepeace down in Georgia. These are all people that, and Daniel Govar, of course, in Florida. These are people that are constant contributors to Casl Entertainment products, and I like to take care of my artists. They take care of me, and they help my dreams come to life. I mean, it's great to have a good idea, but cover art sells, and there's nothing quite like writing a module, and you've come up with this great idea for it, and then the artist turns in a picture of some piece in there that you might have done, and you just look at it and you're like, wow, this is exactly how I imagined it. It's really kind of like you cast the wish spell, and all of a sudden, wow, it's here.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm very grateful to my artists, and Chet decided he wanted to share that one, and I said go for it.
That's cool. We've kind of talked about this a little bit, how you don't want things to get bogged down if I don't have references and want to use one of your adventures in my world. But do you have a particular setting that you like to write in? I know that you've done a Ravenloft adventure and a few Greyhawk adventures. Do you have a setting that you enjoy writing in?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I bleed Greyhawk. I am one of the biggest Greyhawk fans you're ever liable to meet in your life. So everything that I write, for the exception of very special modules, like you mentioned, I wrote a Ravenloft module. And this actually goes back to the whole idea of me being receptive to my fans. I had a friend of mine who said, "Hey, Carlos, you really should write a Ravenloft module. I would love to run that for my group." And I thought about it a while, and then I had one of my dear friends, a high-level patron of mine, David Aho. He said, "Hey, Carlos, I run a store up here, and a lot of my clientele in when I say up here in Wisconsin, where he lives, I have a lot of my clientele that are itching for Ravenloft material. So I wrote a Ravenloft game. That one would be called NREV. But generally speaking, almost everything that I write, there's 3 other books that I've written for another dear friend of mine, and I'm sure long-term listeners of yours, Kevin, will know when I say Avermeer. David Hill's setting, Avermeer, is really innovative. It's very imaginative. It's one of the best things out there right now. If your listeners aren't familiar with that setting, they should do themselves a favor, go out and at least do some research on it, because it's a great setting. I mentioned before that some of us old schoolers, you feel like after a while you've seen everything and you've heard all the concepts. Well, I guarantee you when you start reading through Avermeer, you're going to see a bunch of stuff you've never seen before, implementations of old ideas turned on their heads, or just things that you'll think to yourself, how come I never thought of that before? I've done 3 modules for that setting, Avermeer, because I'm such an enthusiast of it. But every other single thing I do is set in Greyhawk. Now, since I don't have the Hasbro license for that, obviously it's more like Casl Ent, in that I file the numbers off of it. Like, for example, I'll never mention Igwaliv straight up, but I will mention the Witch Queen, as she's often known as. I will never say the Free City of Greyhawk, but I will say the Free City. So I do those things just to avoid any kind of copyright entanglements, because I believe it's very important to respect IP.
Yeah.
I know how I would feel if people were out there, aping my ideas. I wouldn't like that very much at all. So I try and extend the same courtesy to the Wizards people by doing that. Also, obviously, you don't want any legal entanglements. It's not just for a moral standpoint, but everything I do is nominally set in the world of Greyhawk, although I do my best to ensure that they can be dropped into any setting that you want to, with very, very minimal work on the part of the DM. Because I feel like if the DM is out there buying a module to begin with, he is doing it, or she is doing it, because they don't want to have to do a ton of work. Well, why would I create a bunch of backstory that they're going to have to retrofit?
For sure. And I would hope that our listeners, my listeners, know who David is, because he was my first interview.
David is a great guy. David is one of the most imaginative folks out there right now in the industry. I'm not even talking about in D&D. I'm talking about in our gaming industry, period. I can't say enough good things about him, and I'll drop a little bit of a spoiler on you guys for those of you who aren't really conversant with his work. He's about to launch a Patreon of his own that I would encourage everybody to check out, because I think he's going to be doing some badass stuff in it.
I agree. Well, before... go ahead.
No, absolutely. I was done.
I was just going to say, before we say mahalo and have a good day, is there anything else that you would like my listeners to know about yourself, the company, the Patreon, anything?
Yeah, I think I could only add a couple other things. The first is that I attend conventions across America in order to get the word of Casl Entertainment out. We're a growing company. We're new. And I feel like it's important for people to be able to touch and feel the product by me running it. That's why I premiere modules at different shows. Like, for example, all 3 of the modules I'm going to be running at Gamehole next month will be published modules. All the cover art and everything is already done for that, and I'm going to be bringing prototypes to the show. So I would encourage people out there that are listening to us, if you want to know more about Casl Entertainment products, it's great to learn about them online. It's great to go to our Facebook page or our website, or anywhere you might want to learn about us. But I really encourage you to come see me at a show and playing a game, so you can get a feel for exactly what's going on with us, and you can join in on the energy with it, because I feel like Dungeons and Dragons and gaming in general. I don't like to think of it in a vacuum. The game is meant to be played. We don't, talking about it's fun and theorizing about it's fun, but man, I want you guys to see the games in action. Go ahead and to a convention and see and play in a game with me, or watch us on YouTube and see what my players are like and how much fun they're having in the Patreon game, and hopefully that'll give you a chance to figure out what we're all about. That's one thing I'd like to say about us. The other is that as a fledgling company right there, I wanted to thank everybody out there right now that's listening, and I want to thank you, Kevin, for having me on the show in specific. It's a great opportunity for us to get our name out there, and we're doing our best right now to gain traction. There's a lot of products out there that you can buy in the RPG environment right now, and you're competing against people for their dollar and just to hold their attention. So I don't take it for granted that people are going to take a risk on me with $20 to lay down on my module. It's meaningful to me. I want to thank everybody that actually has done that, or it's actually thinking about it, or even takes time to learn a little bit more about Casl Entertainment to see if it's for you. It may not be for you, but if it is, I want to thank you for supporting me and helping me make my dreams come true. Because this is something I've always wanted to do since I was 12 years old, 10 years old. I always wanted to write with, I always wanted to say, I've got a TSR module published by, Gary Gygax thought to publish my module. Or Jim Ward decided that, hey, Metamorphosis Alpha, this was good enough for him. This is me realizing my dreams to some extent. And I don't take that lightly. You guys are all helping me a great deal, and I just want to say thanks.
That's awesome. I totally understand wanting to live that dream.
Yeah, it's universal, I think, for all of us out there that play the game. I mean, we all have great ideas. Actually, that is something I wouldn't mind saying here at the end of this. I was in a panel at GaryCon called The Future of Greyhawk, in which I was asked to talk about the publishing aspect of publishing modules. And I think it's great out there. I think all of us that play the game and, have had a background in it of any depth, they think about their ideas and they imagine how awesome they are. And I would encourage everybody out there to do more with it than just think about it. I'm nobody really special. I'm just a gamer like you, just like your listeners out there, Kevin. I don't have any intrinsic quality that makes me a publisher and nobody else can be. I think everybody out there has this in them to make a company like Casl Entertainment, to go ahead and maybe you don't have the talent right now to do mapping, for example, digital mapping. Well, I didn't either when I started. I was terrible. Heck, I'm still terrible as a digital mapper, but I do it anyway. I didn't have all this Photoshop talent for my first covers to make them beautiful, but I do now because I put the time in. I put the work in to do it. I think the only thing that makes me a publisher and doesn't make other people a publisher is either they're not willing to or they can't put the time in to do the work to get there. But I can guarantee you that I want to hear all your stories out there. I want to know I want to see what your dreams are as they translate through the paper. Kevin, your listeners out there, I'm excited about all that stuff. I want to see it as out there on the shelves next to my stuff, so we can kind of clink glasses at a convention one day and say, hey man, we're both living the dream. So for everybody out there that's listening to this and is thinking to themselves that they can't do it, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. You can do this just like I am. All you got to do is you got to have the put in the work and have the desire, and you'll be able to do it, no problem.
I think that's a great closing point. So for me, myself, and Carlos, mahalo, and go live the dream. Again, thank you for listening to The Kevin Long Show. You can find us on southgatemediagroup.com You can find The Kevin Long Show on Facebook by searching The Kevin Long Show. You can find us at Twitter by searching at The Kevin Long SH1. You can also email the show at thekevinlongshow@gmail.com.